Lecture for Tisha B'Av, Rabbi Avraham Yitzhak Schwartz, full transcript. Part 1. Introduction, The Light Hidden Within the 3 Weeks. Shalom. We are in the final days of the 3 weeks, Bein HaMetzarim, leading up to Tisha B'Av. Our sages teach that from the 7th of Avenue, the enemies entered the sanctuary, and the days became more severe in their mourning. I wanted us to contemplate, specifically, the light that is hidden within these days. When we are in a period of war, a long war, the mourning this year is seemingly harder than in any other year. It is not just that there are over 1,500 dead, murdered, and massacred, entire communities destroyed, Be'eri, Kfar Aza, and Nir Oz, and in the north, kibbutzim and moshavim like Avivim and Margaliot stand empty. First and foremost, this is a very difficult and complex reality that we have experienced this past year. But specifically out of the difficulty and the great pain, let us look at a passage by Rav Kook, who says at the beginning of Orat HaMilchama, lights of war, when there is a great war in the world, the power of Mashiach is awakened. It is clear that there are heavy prices to pay for this, but first of all, we must know that there is a great light behind the war. A great opportunity is hidden there. When there is a great war in the world, the power of Mashiach is awakened. Part 2. Rabbi Akiva's perspective on destruction and consolation. How can one be in the midst of a great war, in sorrow, suffering, pain, and bereavement, and speak of Mashiach? Indeed, the one who taught us this perspective is Rabbi Akiva. The Gemara at the end of Tractate Makkot relates, Rabban Gamliel, Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah, Rabbi Yehoshua, and Rabbi Akiva were walking on the road and heard the clamor of Rome from 120 miles away. We are speaking of the period after the destruction. Rabbi Akiva was alive during the time of the temple, and he was present during the Great Revolt. These sages are walking along the road and hear the noise of Rome, which destroyed the temple, and here they hear the noise of the marketplace, the commerce of Rome, with the immense power of the Fourth Kingdom. They began to weep, but Rabbi Akiva laughed. They asked him, "Why are you laughing?" He said, "Why are you weeping?" They replied, "These idolaters sit in security, peace, and tranquility, while we, the footstool of our God, are burned by fire, the temple is burned by fire, and the idolaters. Look at them, that is why I laugh. If this is the lot of those who violate his will, then for those who perform his will, all the more so. You should know that the strength of the people of Israel will not be revealed." What was the sages' response? No response. Another time, they were ascending to Jerusalem. When they reached Mount Scopus, they tore their garments. They reached Mount Scopus, saw the Temple Mount burned, destroyed, desolate, they tore their garments. Who? Even Rabbi Akiva. When they reached the Temple Mount, they saw a fox coming out of the Holy of Holies. A fox is an expression of total destruction. Foxes do not usually wander here inside the city. Seeing a fox wander in the Holy of Holies means everything is desolate and destroyed. They began to weep, and Rabbi Akiva laughed. They asked him, "Akiva, why are you laughing? What is this smile?" He said to them, "Why are you weeping?" They told him, "A place where it is written, and the stranger who approaches shall be put to death, and now foxes walk within it, and shall we not weep?" He said to them, "That is why I laugh. For it is written, and I will take to me faithful witnesses to record, Uriah the priest and Zechariah the son of Jeberechiah." And what connection did Uriah have to Zechariah? Uriah was in the first temple, and Zechariah in the second temple. Rather, the text links the prophecy of Zechariah to the prophecy of Uriah. Regarding Uriah, it is written, this is a verse in the book of Micah, "Therefore, because of you, Zion shall be plowed as a field, and Jerusalem shall become heaps, and the mountain of the house as the high places of a forest." In Micah, Uriah's prophecy is written, that Jerusalem will be totally destroyed. In Zechariah, it is written, "There shall yet old men and old women sit in the broad places of Jerusalem." As long as Uriah's prophecy had not been fulfilled, I feared that Zechariah's prophecy might not be fulfilled. Now that Uriah's prophecy has been fulfilled, it is certain that Zechariah's prophecy will be fulfilled. With these words, they said to him, "Akiva, you have comforted us." Part 3. The Maharal's question and the meaning of absence. Now the sages were comforted. Rabbi Akiva tells them, "Until today, I did not know if the prophecy of retribution or the prophecy of consolation would be fulfilled. After I saw that the retribution was fulfilled, the consolation will also be fulfilled. I will ask two questions. The first question is asked by the Maharal of Prague in Netzik Yisrael, chapter 26. What does it mean? Until today I did not know that the prophecy of consolation would be fulfilled. A prophecy, the prophet promises, there shall yet old men and old women sit in the broad places of Jerusalem. You didn't know it would be fulfilled. Another question, it continues, and boys and girls playing in its streets. Another point, how much time passed from when Rabbi Akiva said his words of consolation, saying, behold, it shall be, until it actually happened? At least 1,500 years. How do we know? Because when the Ramban visited Jerusalem 700 years ago, he could barely find two Jews, About 500 years ago, when settlement began in Safed, we know that then settlement also returned to Jerusalem. If so, 1,500 years passed since Rabbi Akiva said, there will be old men and old women in Jerusalem. What is funny about that? Jerusalem is destroyed, everything is destroyed, desolate. That is comfort, telling you that in another 1,500 years there will be old men and women in Jerusalem. Is that comfort? So how is it comfort for Rabbi Akiva? And how does it comfort the sages? To understand this, we must first understand who Rabbi Akiva is. Rabbi Akiva is the one who grew up as the son of converts, and Amharites, until the age of 40 not knowing how to read or write. At age 40, through his wife's strength, he goes to study Torah. They live in terrible poverty, there is no one poorer than them in the world, even though she is from a wealthy home, but her parents, Rachel's parents, do not give them a penny. Rabbi Akiva goes to study Torah, and before that, he tells his wife a promise, one day I will have money, and I will make you jewelry. That jewelry will be a Jerusalem of gold. Now, three perspectives on this promise of Rabbi Akiva. First of all, he promises his wife jewelry. Not a Star of David and not a heart, no. The jewelry is Jerusalem. Which Jerusalem? Jerusalem of gold. Just as you see Jerusalem destroyed, Jerusalem one day will be built, it will be made of gold. Rabbi Akiva looks ahead, always not looking at the current reality, always looking ahead. One point in the general perspective, Jerusalem will be built. The second perspective, we know historically that 2,000 years after Rabbi Akiva promised his wife this jewelry, this concept that Rabbi Akiva coined, Jerusalem of gold, was used to conquer Jerusalem in the Six-Day War. With the wonderful song by Naomi Shemer, with this, the soldiers marched, 2,000 years, Jerusalem of gold. And the third perspective is personal, Rabbi Akiva promises his wife, Rachel, today we have no money, one day we will have, I promise you, and I will give you jewelry. How many years passed from when Rabbi Akiva promised his wife until he brought her the jewelry? At least 24 years. Today, a husband who says to his wife, in another 24 years I will buy you jewelry, she will tell him, you have 24 seconds to regret that. What, in 24 years you will buy me jewelry? But Rabbi Akiva lived like that. The Gemara says, Rabbi Akiva later became immensely wealthy. The Gemara in Nedarim says Rabbi Akiva became wealthy from 6 things, he was immensely wealthy. But that is not how he started, he lived in terrible poverty, he and his wife, but always looked ahead, we will have, everything will be fine, there will be. Currently, there isn't, there will be. Rabbi Akiva spends 24 years in the yeshiva, returns with 24,000 students, loses them all in a plague. Some say so. Rav Kook says Rabbi Akiva's students were killed in the revolt against the Romans. Rabbi Akiva loses everyone and starts everything from the beginning. How is it possible? 24,000, that is what the Jewish people lost in the struggle for the land of Israel in the last 100 years. Rabbi Akiva loses that in a month. And what does he do? Starts everything from the beginning. How is it possible? Rabbi Akiva always educates us not to look at what happened, not even at the present, always ahead. And the horizon is always good. Rabbi Akiva says, I see the future. They reach the Holy of Holies, after which Rabbi Akiva says, I see the future. The Maharal asks, what, you don't see what the others see? What does, I did not know the prophecy of consolation would be fulfilled until I saw the prophecy of retribution, mean? The Maharal says, because these are two witnesses. Namely, the destruction and the fact that there will sit old men and women in Jerusalem. The one testifies to the other, because, absence, hahedar, is the cause of existence, ha-ha-vaya. Explanation. The fact that there is a deficiency, that there is an absence, that there is a reality of nothingness, that is the ability to give birth to a new reality. The Maharal gives an example. Take an egg that has a chick in it, and there is a moment of breaking. And whoever looks at it from the side, what does he see? That the shell is breaking. Breaking, breaking, breaking. Don't look at the breaking, what should you look at? At the chick being born. Take a building, a huge building, how is it built? First, they dig foundations. How deep are the foundations? According to the height of the building. The height of the foundations, if the building is very large, then one must dig very deep. When there is a reality of absence, of deficiency, a large building is going to be built. Rabbi Akiva teaches us that without absence there is no existence, and if I see a reality of total destruction, there will be a large building. The Maharal says, when Rabbi Akiva says, I did not know if the prophecy of consolation would be fulfilled, he does not mean, I did not know if it would be fulfilled. It is clear that it will be fulfilled. It is clear that old men and women will sit in Jerusalem, but how many? Maybe old men and women means 4 old men and women. Old men and women means 4 boys and girls playing in its streets, is that 4? How many residents are in Jerusalem today? 1 million residents. About 700,000 Jews. How many old people are there? Hundreds of thousands in Jerusalem today. The Maharal says, Rabbi Akiva contemplates the destruction and says, the prophet promised us destruction, but maybe the destruction of Jerusalem is that 2 synagogues collapsed, 10 synagogues, 2 neighborhoods. When I see that his prophecy was absolute, total, Zion shall be plowed as a field. It was conquered, a fox comes out of the Holy of Holies, they really conquered it in the absolute sense of the temple site. We look back today and we know what happened to the Holocaust, what happened in the diaspora, what happened to the Jewish people in the last 100 years. The Holocaust was absolute, absolute, the deepest and most terrible destruction that exists. So, the building will also be absolute. There will be a huge building. Because if the absence is terrible, if the break is great, then the birth that is going to be will be a great birth. The Maharal's language, the absence is the cause of existence. If you have a building standing and one floor fell, a new floor will be built. But if the building collapsed, there will be a new building here. And if the blow we took in the diaspora, since the destruction of the temple until today, is terrible, our expectation is for a great building. And therefore, Rabbi Akiva contemplates the world and in the most difficult moments of crisis says, it is hard for us now, it hurts us, there is a difficult crisis. I am not in the crisis. I see what is beyond the crisis. What is beyond? What is beyond the crisis? Here, I see a great building. And then what? How does Rabbi Akiva react? Laughed. But Rabbi Akiva, don't you understand that now there is destruction? What is funny? Don't you understand that until old men and women sit in the streets of Jerusalem, 1,500 years will pass? Rabbi Akiva closes his eyes and he is there, he is in the old men and women. He says, what gives the people of Israel the strength to hold on throughout the exile is to be all the time in our good future. And we have a good future. Do not sit in the present. Part 4. War is a catalyst for redemption. I return now to Rav Kook's words about war. Rav Kook says, when there is a great war in the world, the power of Mashiach is awakened. What is the role of Mashiach? To raise the reality, to uplift the world, to bring the world to its correction. When the world was running as usual, there were no developments that brought the power of Mashiach. But specifically when there is a war in the world, especially if the war is great. By the way, in World War I, which Rav Kook describes, there was a very hard, very great war, there were 16 million dead. And then a movement arose in England that said, we don't want wars anymore, we are fed up with wars. And then, after less than 20 years, World War II broke out, and all those who did not want to fight, were forced to fight. They made every effort not to fight, they made agreements with the Nazis and did this, they fought. In the end, how many were killed in World War II? 60 million. It is clear that one must fight. This procrastination never helped the world. Not here, either, in the last 20 years. Rav Kook says, when there is a great war in the world, the power of Mashiach is awakened. We have gone through the last 50 years here in the country, and there were terrorist attacks and pains, and the First Lebanon War, the Second Lebanon War, and Protective Edge, and Cast Lead, and various other attacks. Now think about the concept that was here in the city of the patriarchs, the Black Sabbath, that there are 12 dead in the alleyway, really, a Sabbath hard to bear. Now think for a moment about the Gaza envelope communities, Be'eri, Kfar Aza, Nir Oz, Halat, Nir Yitzhak, Nativ Ha-Asara, what they went through in one Sabbath, what we as a people went through in the past year, terrible and awful. And nevertheless, Rav Kook says, leave the pains for a moment, think for a moment what the war brings. In secret, behind it, there is a power of Mashiach awakening here. The world is advancing to its correction. Why? The singing has arrived, the singing, the wicked are being wiped out of the world, and the world is being perfumed. In the past year, about 15,000 terrorists were eliminated in the Gaza Strip. 5 out of 6 Hamas leaders were eliminated. In Judea and Samaria, about 500 terrorists were eliminated. The world is cleaner. When there is a cleaner world, a world purer of evil, and this is pure evil, the world is more qualified to receive the light, and the voice of the turtle dove is heard in our land. One hears the voice of Torah, of purity, of building the land. There is power for good to be revealed in a clearer way. There are pains to the war. The individuals who perish without judgment within the revolution of the war's flood. There are individuals who are killed in the war. What is called individuals? Let us contemplate a bit historically on what we have been through. So in World War I, on Mount Herzl, a large monument is placed for the Jews who were in the Red Army in World War II. Only in the Red Army in World War II, Jews, how many were killed? Over 200,000. Contemplate what we have gone through here in the country in the last 100 years, in the struggle for the land, about 25,000 dead. Now, only in the Red Army in World War II over 200,000 dead. What is left of them? Such a stone, such a monument on Mount Herzl, there is such a stone. The past year is hard to bear, the pains are great, but compare 1,500 dead to 200,000. Where is the people of Israel? And those 200,000, where were they killed? On foreign soil. Rav Kook says about this, the individuals who perish without judgment within the revolution of the war's flood. That is to say, those Jews who are killed within the war, there is in it a measure of the righteous that atones. That is to say, they are pure souls. Rav Kook writes this about those who are killed abroad, those who put their lives on the line with heroism and self-sacrifice for the sake of the people of Israel and the land of Israel. They ascend upward to the root of life, and the essence of their lives brings a general value for good and for blessing to the entire building of the world in all its expanse. That is to say, those Jews who were killed with self-sacrifice influence rights and goodness to the entire people of Israel. And afterwards, at the end of the war, the world is renewed with a new spirit. The war ends, the world does not remain static. The war gives birth to new powers in the world, a new good must be revealed in the world, and the feet of Mashiach are revealed more. The feet of Mashiach, we already see an appearance of Mashiach in the world. And according to the value of the size of the war in its quantity and quality, so will grow the expectation for the feet of Mashiach that is coming. If the war is great, we have an expectation that there will be a great renewal in the world. In our terms here in the country, the past year is hard, it is painful, a new power of Mashiach must be born from it, a new power of building the land, a new power of redemption. The world war of now, a terrible, great, and deep expectation is in it. The Rav says, we expect very much developments following World War I, and what happened? The Balfour Declaration and the British took responsibility for the land. 30 years later the State of Israel was established. Those are developments. But the Rav says, we expect that following the war, things will happen. Part 5. Expectation is a constructive force. Rav Charlap teaches, the expectation that we expect is not something random, it is what brings the redemption. If we do not expect, it will not happen. Our sages say, the birth pangs of Mashiach, Hevle Mashiach. Rav Charlap says, the expression, Hevle Mashiach, has to do not as people are used to explaining, like birth pangs, from the language of sorrow, the pain of Mashiach is coming, but Hevle from the language of ropes, Havelaim, that pull. We have the ability to bring Mashiach, to pull him. How? According to the expectation. If we expect, if we wait, Mashiach will arrive. It depends on us. We must expect. Rav Charlap says this, if this time is truly capable of redemption, it is required all the more to increase the expectation for it. For without expectation, it is impossible for the redemption to be revealed in it. Redemption cannot be revealed without our expectation. Expectation is a power in the soul, we are waiting for something. Maimonides writes, I believe with complete faith in the coming of Mashiach, and even though he may tarry, yet I will wait for him every day that he may come. One must wait for Mashiach every day. Have you waited for him? Today we must wait for Mashiach, wait really. I am waiting, like what? Like people waiting for the Iranians. Standing, sitting at home, men and women call me, what will be? Will the Iranians shoot at us? Will they not shoot at us? What are you waiting for the Iranians for? One must wait for good things. Who will open the door? What are we waiting for? We are waiting for Mashiach, we are waiting for the building of the temple, we are waiting for redemption. We have the ability in our expectation to bring good things. Let's wait for Mashiach. Rav Charlap says, part of the expectation for Mashiach, and the expectation for Mashiach is not voluntary. The Gemara in Tractate Shabbat page 31 says that when a person goes up to heaven, they ask him 6 questions. What did they ask him? Did you conduct your business with honesty? Did you set fixed times for Torah? Did you wait for salvation? Did you wait for the salvation to come? The Rand says, what is waiting for salvation? For the fulfillment of the prophets, words in your days, did you wait for it to happen? They ask a person, they judge him on this. Rav Charlap says, in order for us to have a true expectation of salvation, we must believe that the people of Israel are worthy of redemption when? Every hour, today. And the questioner will ask, how are the people of Israel worthy of redemption when we know other things about the people of Israel? Rav Charlap says, in order to believe that the people of Israel are worthy of redemption, one must know that all the sins that exist in the people of Israel belong only to the external shell, only to the details. But in the heart, in the soul, in the general side of the people of Israel, there is no sin at all. The people of Israel are worthy of redemption every moment. And if we ask, if so, where is the redemption? If we are worthy of redemption, why doesn't it come? This is a shortening of the hand of the Almighty, these are the secrets of the Holy One, blessed be He, we have no idea. But the people of Israel are worthy. Worthy indeed. And where do we see that the people of Israel are worthy? In the past year. Now let us look only at the good that we have seen in the past year. One of the bereaved fathers said, when we contemplate, Avinu Makinu, we say too, Avinu Makinu. 1. Do for the sake of those killed for your holy name, I think he said that. There is the second, do for the sake of those who came into fire and water for the sanctification of your name. What is the difference between them? Those killed for the sake of your holy name, they were killed. Those who came into fire and water, they saw fire and they jumped inside. Why? For the sanctification of his name. How many heroes were killed on Simchat Torah and from then until today when they jumped into the fire for the sanctification of his name? Enlisting for reserves, got on the vehicles, drove south, drove to war, over 300,000 soldiers were drafted, when? Every soldier has a father, mother, wife, children, brother, sister, who support him and push him and believe in him, sacrificed their lives with heroism. The parents stand on their graves, an endless number of fathers and mothers and say, if he had asked us and if we had asked him, he would have chosen this path again, because it is for the sake of the people of Israel. Hundreds stand who have lost hands and legs and eyes and say, we for the sake of the people of Israel are ready to give everything. Now in this year, only here from the city of the patriarchs, 2 of our sons lost a leg, half a leg, and there are some other wounded with injuries sometimes not simple at all, but look straight and say, this is self-sacrifice for the sake of the people of Israel that we are ready for. When people like this stand, who sacrificed a hand or a leg, or both, what a power of self-sacrifice is here. What kind of people do we have? What inner purity do we have? What unity? What connection of hearts? Rav Charlap says, the holiness of Israel from the side of their whole has never been damaged, and it is in a purification of holiness as always. All the sins and iniquities are only from the side of the individual, and not from the side of the whole. And therefore now that they are awakened, the redemption is awakened, the beginning of the repentance is to return and to fulfill again the concepts of the hidden whole of Israel, to remember who is our whole, who is our people of Israel. Our people of Israel are worthy of redemption. And if the people of Israel are worthy of redemption, we must expect. And if there is war and pain and sorrow and suffering, It means even more that one must wait, because behind the suffering waits Mashiach, waits for us a revelation. And if these pains were not for 50 years, then one must expect redemption that was not here for 50 years. More building of the land, more building of the Temple Mount, the time for redemption has arrived. Part 6. Conclusion, the story of the Chatham Sofer and the embrace on Tisha B'Av. I will end with a story about the Chatham Sofer. The Chatham Sofer lived about 250 years ago in Hungary, a tremendous genius. One rabbi came to him and told him that he performed a circumcision for a non-Jew who came to convert, and blood would not stop flowing from the circumcision. This is a rare event. It also happens sometimes to babies at a circumcision. Medical intervention is needed. But there is a problem, because the non-Jews say that if a community converts a non-Jew, they will punish the entire community severely if they expose this story to a doctor. They are in danger. What to do? The Chatham Sofer tells him, "There is no choice, only you and he and I who were exposed to the story, will get into a carriage, drive to the river, and fall into the water. Because it is impossible to endanger an entire community. They get into the carriage, drive toward the river to fall into the water, and before they reach the river, a few dozen meters from the river, some old man jumps in front of the carriage, stops them, asks them, 'What happened? Where are you driving?' They say, 'We have a medical problem.' 'What is the problem?' They explain the problem to him. The old man says, 'Why are you not speaking? I am an expert in the field.' He lays down the convert, puts healing substances on him, stops his bleeding. And then the rabbi of the town comes to tell him, 'What a miracle, you saved us.' He sees that the old man has disappeared. He approaches the Chatham Sofer and tells him, 'Rabbi, that was Elijah the prophet, right? Because he suddenly disappeared from my eyes.' The Chatham Sofer tells him, 'Correct.' The rabbi of the town says to him, 'Rabbi, now Elijah the prophet, what, couldn't you bring him an hour earlier? Do you know what happened to me in the meantime? My guts turned over, I parted from my wife, from the children, from the community, I said, Shema Yisrael, confession, I parted from this world. Why like that? Why didn't you bring him an hour earlier so I would receive his salvation and in tranquility?' The Chatham Sofer told him, 'Do you think that one merits the revelation of Elijah like that? But after you had a willingness to sacrifice your life so that an entire community would not be harmed, if you have self-sacrifice for other Jews, you become worthy of the revelation of Elijah.' In this past year, how many Jews sacrificed their lives for other Jews? What a readiness for self-sacrifice of the entire people of Israel. Of the entire people of Israel. From the pilots and their assistants and the Navy and infantry and armored corps and engineering and people at home and the parents, an entire nation with such self-sacrifice, with such heroism and such sacrifice. How much care for the hostages from the right and from the left. How much concern for other Jews. How much we have been awakened this year to think about one another. This is our nation, this is us. On this day, the day of Tisha B'Av, we mourn for the destruction and we mourn for baseless hatred, and we have much to correct also in this area. But let us contemplate the good, how much of the unity, how much of the heroism, how much of the self-sacrifice was revealed in the past year. And if such good was revealed, if we have such care for one another, we are worthy of a true revelation of Elijah, we are worthy of the building of the temple, worthy of a full redemption. So now let us expect, let us wait for this moment to happen. We are waiting. I will end with a wonderful sentence of the Maggid of Mezerich. He says, "By what power is Mashiach born on Tisha B'Av? Tisha B'Av is the most painful moment that exists, the moment of the separation of the Holy One, blessed be He, from the congregation of Israel. But before the Holy One, blessed be He, sends us into exile, He gives us the embrace, the strongest embrace that exists, an embrace for 2,000 years. From this embrace that the Holy One, blessed be He, gives us on Tisha B'Av, Mashiach is born. So Mashiach is born. A new power of redemption is born on Tisha B'Av. We are waiting for redemption, right now. May it be the will that the temple be built speedily in our days, right now, with good news.